Good evening, everyone. This is Zero. We're going to be talking about Yasuo real quick. Can you play him top? Can you play mid, jungle? Where do you play him? So there's a few things you need to know right off when we start. So first off is he's played very similar to Yi. They have very similar playstyles. They're the melee ADCs that have gap closers, and they're very similar. So the most important thing you need to know about him that's different than anyone else is his passive gives him double crit chance. So at 50% crit chance, you have 100. Or a 50% crit chance from items, and your runes, you have 100% crit chance. So in this case, you can see I have my static shiv, which is 20% critical strike, which means I now have 40% because it gives me a bonus of 20 if we go into the character menu right here. We can see that I have a 40% crit chance, which is really good for a starting item. I managed to get this in a game with no other players. I managed to get it about 7 minutes. And that was, not CSing very well. I was kind of messing around. The other important thing to know is that to use his ult effectively, it works better if you have somebody on your team who has a knock-up. So go to LoL Nexus or just Google, League of Legends champions with knock-ups. Cho'Gath's a really good one. Blitzcrank's a really good one because they're useful in other places in the game. I just destroyed a turret. Go me. Yeah, so those are the important things to know because his ultimate, the way it works, is the opponent has to be airborne. As you can see, the radius is very large and will actually auto target. So you just hit R. When this button lights up, which will be almost never because it's only when an opponent's airborne, you mash R and you'll dash to them and your ult will go off, which at this point is 200 plus 25, so 225 damage, and it will keep them airborne for another minute as you beat on them. So I'm going to move just to keep from getting a lever buster, Yeah, so that's how that works. So those are the important things you need to know. So when you ask yourself, how do I build Yasuo? Well, you're going to build him a lot like Yi. You're going to build him with high attack speed, and you're going to build him with high damage. The only difference is, unlike Yi, you're going to build him 100% crit. So to do this, the most efficient way that I figured you can do this is to get a static shiv, because it gives you 40% attack speed, it gives you movement speed, which his passive also uses, and it gives you crit chance, as well as the unique passive, which is just fabulous. It's 100 damage to everybody around you that can also crit. So at 100% crit chance, you'll do 200 magic damage to everybody around you, or 4 targets closest to you, with your static shiv when it procs. So it gives you the 3 things you really need, and it's pretty cheap. So if you get that, that gives you 40% crit chance. And then you pick up an Infinity Edge, because you also need damage as well as crit chance, and that gives you 25% crit chance as well as 80 damage, or 75 damage, I can't remember. So that's going to bring you up to 90 crit chance. So basically what I did was I made a rune page where I have 5% in my red runes, my marks. I have 5% in crit, which gives me 100% crit without having to buy another item. Because there's no item that gives you 5% crit, and there's no point in buying an item for crit and wasting it, because once you're over 100% crit, it doesn't make a difference, it really doesn't matter. So you need to build them 100% crit. So I use IE and Static Shiv for that. You don't have to. You can use other. Phantom Dancer is a really good option if you don't want an IE. But IE is especially good because if you're critting every hit, it also gives you 250% crit damage instead of 200, which is going to make a big difference. So actually scratch that. You need to have an IE. There is no option. You can maybe switch Static Shiv for Phantom Dancer, but it gives you the same movement speed bonus. It doesn't give you the same passive, but I feel like Static Shiv is going to be a much stronger item to have than a Phantom Dancer. Phantom Dancer kind of falls apart when compared to the Static Shiv on Yasuo. Anyway, it's a really good item on a lot of other people. And maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. My summoners here, it was just kind of to farm quicker, so don't worry about my summoners. So Dash is really fun. The way it works is it does 25% more damage each time you use it consecutively. It has a 0.2 cooldown. So I'm going to dash. As you can see, it's stacking here. My Static Shiv went off by accident. So it's stacking here, and you notice I one-shot that last minion. So I had 100% damage increase there. So I would have done 260 damage for, is it 7 seconds? Oh no, I don't know the exact time, but you can't cast it on the same opponent more than every 7 seconds. As you can see, once it's marked, it starts to cool down, and I can't do it again. I have to manually attack them. It won't let me dash. You can't dash turrets, you can't dash allied anything. Yeah, so that's interesting. And then you build damage. So whether you build Blade of the Ruin King, Hydra, it's basically how you build Yi and your preference. The only thing you need to do with Yasuo is get Berserker's Greaves, an Infinity Edge, and then either a Static Shiv or a Phantom Dancer, and have your runes set to 5% crit. Really, the rest is how you would build Yi. You build damage, you build attack speed. That's it. You have a gap closer, see I can get right in their face, can move around, and then I also have my Q, which does do on-hit effects, I believe, and it does AoE, which is good for wave clear. Between that and your Static Shiv, it does do on-hit effects. See, there we are. So that's good. Now, this is the only way you can use your ult if somebody on your team does not have a knock-up. It's the crappy part. So here, I'll show you real quick. So oh, did I miss? I did. Okay, so I've hit a target. So Steel Wind Rising. That means I have until that cools down to do it again. Oh. Just a second. There we go. So it's 2, and then it does it. My next attack with my Q will send them airborne, like a tornado, just like Janna. It does it for 1 second, so it gives you 1 second to pull your ult off, and you can only do it to champions, so I can't show you in this game, unfortunately. So that's why it makes it useful if Cho'Gath is on your team and he can Q and hit, 3 or 4 of them. It gives you a better chance. You can kind of pick. Because, yeah. So you have to hit two Qs, and then your third Q will knock all the enemies up in a line. As you can see, there goes the tornado. So that way, you have to ult in that time frame, which is insane. So it's easier if your team has knockups or blitz, because you know when he goes in for a grab, next thing he's going to do is knock them up. You ult them, they're going to be dead, because at the end this does 400 damage, and plus your physical attack, which hopefully is up to 200 or 300. So that's going to be the best way that I've found to play Yasuo so far. The one last ability we haven't covered yet is his W. His W doesn't do anything unless you're up against a carry. And basically, so if there's a carry on one side and you don't want to get hit by them, it's basically just a big barrier. So you can see these caster minions. I'm going to throw my W's on cooldown. Awkward. Alright, so it doesn't block turret shots, but it blocks everything else. So as you can see here, these minions are fighting. Put that up. See, their caster minions can't shoot through it, but mine can. So that's a fun use, but I feel like that ability is a little bit underpowered. Yeah. And then Resolve is at 100 stacks. Yasuo will be shielded the next time he is dealt damage, and I believe it is your wind shield that goes into that. So my 170, which I get from moving, which is why movement speed is important, will go into a shield, which it's kind of like Blitzcrank and his mana. So it's a big deal. You really want that. So I'm going to throw that out. It doesn't really do anything. And Smite, just for fun. As you can see, I got my tornado off there. So let's recap really quick. You want to make sure you have 100% crit chance. However you want to do that, it's up to you. My preference is IE, Static Shiv, and a couple of runes. You want to build damage and attack speed. So if you have Static Shiv, one more attack speed item, I like the Zephyr or the Blade of the Ruin King. And then damage, maybe a GA. You can play him top, just like any other top, CS. Or you can play him jungle. I started blue, and it seemed to work fairly well. I did that twice. Blue, red, and then white wolves, wraiths, golems, dragon. The regular stuff. I build him the same in the jungle, but that's because I haven't had time to evolve an actual build. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to get the jungling item for melee champs, but where he was new, I really wanted to build him, as a ganker. So I built him with the regular items. But it wouldn't hurt to try with the jungle items, and I'll probably do that. I'll probably get more familiar with them and cover that later. But this is my general guide to how to play Yasuo, and I hope it helps. Just remember, build your crit and have somebody else on your team that can knock people up so you can ult them. Thanks for watching, guys. Questions, comments, rude remarks, throw them down below, and I look forward to playing with you.